you know, they'd both be with her and I'd get a shot, but this is about as good.
Pretty
This one
good.
should be about as good as I can do because they tend to run off.
They're one
But
for
I'm
that.
zooming from like 80 feet or so to get that picture. So,
I have seen
That's
them
still pretty
over on
close.
South College by my place.
yeah, they run up and down the streets of Fayetteville. They're not a rare critter anymore.
No.
A lot of people
They live
have
in
pictures
backyard.
of them in their backyard.
They're running out of spaces to go.
Yeah.
They live back in our
But that is the thing about Pinnacle and World Peace Wetland Prairie. All the land around there has been developed. I mean, all these apartments in all directions, but just these small areas where you have the good soil and the native plants and some shade trees, that's where the deer need to be. Okay, this is a plant that looks much like a milkweed. It is a dog bane. It's related to the milkweed. But it's in the cannabis family. Never heard of anybody misusing it, but that's about
Oh, that's fun.
a good close-up as I ever get of those. You can see the inside of the tiny flowers. And, of course, that skipper up there is little more than thumb size, so you can imagine those flowers are really, really tiny. But that plant does not feed monarch caterpillars, but there is a butterfly and a moth, both, that I know do actually use it as a host plant for their caterpillars. Can't name them right now. This is a tall silphium plant. It may be, I'm not sure, we'd have to see the leaves so I remember which one it was. But anyway, this is actually growing out there, and it's got a female monarch butterfly. Anybody know how you tell a male?
Nope.
Well,
There's swollen areas in one of the vertical lines on the lower wings. And you see a fat area on two different lines, which the male has, according to our expert, Ulrich Shepherd.
no, I've learned that
According
from
to the book.
real experts. But it's the pheromone with which he attracts a mate. So the male will find some nice milkweed plant and hang around it, maybe nectar on something nearby, like this one's nectaring on this tall silphium plant. And the females come to find them. And if they do, you get caterpillars. And this is a white version of a normally pink native wildflower. And so it's pretty rare. And on Facebook, people say, oh, is that really white? Yes. And a lot of those grow on Pinnacle Prairie, and you don't see them on a lot of places that have the same species. And I just can't think of the name of it right now. I should have my script. Okay, this little guy, you can notice there is evidence that it is a young male. His tail is behind a basket flower plant, and he's probably at least 80 feet away, and zoomed up and then cropped it some to get him. But we had a big crop of foxes in Fayetteville this spring, or this summer. This is an American basket flower, which next month I'll bring actual seeds for. And that's a honeybee. And you know how big honeybees are, so you can guess that that flower is not as big as that. But actually, a lot of the basket flowers, when you do get them, they will, when they're spread like that, they will be as wide as my hand. And so with my hand open like that.
And you said they retract the pedals.
Oh, that's
Right,
right.
put
Well,
them back
maybe
out
we'll
again.
run over one here in a minute. But anyway, what John's talking about is they go back down into the basket at night and they look like a shaving brush.
Huh.
Really, some of them are called shaving brush plants by some people. But then, after about 3 days, they get so they can't come back out fully. They just flop over and then go through different stages. So, but by evening, they'll nearly all be back in the thing, the ones that are in full bloom. So the good news is this year in the place that I've been collecting seed, we actually had a constant change. You know, one area you'd see the same flowers if you went next day, but then 2 days later there'd be some new ones doing the same thing, and it's delightful. Okay, this honeybee is having the juice removed from his body. By John, what do we call those spiders?
Oh,
Like
gross.
crab spiders.
Crab spiders, yes, sir. These spiders,
They're doodling over
Is this-
the nectar or what?
is this spider
What's going
murder?
on?
huh?
Is this a murder scene here?
It's a murder scene, yes. It's the way he gathers his food.
Oh,
And you look at the back, his back up there, and it looks like a face, a little skull. It
does.
makes him look dangerous, doesn't it?
well, I think he is, the honeybee, anyway.
Hey, but
The
But,
honeybee bush, they'd never.
Yes, I was gonna say, the honeybee doesn't like him.
but they'll catch any insect that gets close enough, if they can, and they hide quite well. They look yellow on yellow flowers usually. So this one didn't know what to do to try to get to be red. This is, see the way out there, the back leg?
leaf.
That's- Thank you, John. Leaf-footed bug. And those also are predators, I believe. Some of them, and that one's on the same kind of plant we started off with, the
Oh,
Asclepias amplexicaulis milkweed, called blunt leaf or clasping leaf or sand milkweed. You know what that is?
Hummingbird.
You don't see them sitting still very often.
oh, I do.
That one's hummingbird, probably 70 feet from my backyard fence on World Peace Well Prairie. And he just posed for me, and so we don't see the flapping wings or any of the wonderful things that you see in a lot of pictures.
Newton County called them hominy birds.
I mean,
They had one that would fly in and drink from a little cup on
Oh, yeah,
above their fireplace.
yeah.
in the house.
They didn't have any screens in the house or anything like that.
Well, there's a milkweed tussock moth. You see how it looks like it's made out of thread by some wonderful seamstress put that creature together and stuck it up on that stem of that plant. But this tussock moth eats milkweed foliage just as the butterfly, monarch butterfly caterpillars do. So this one, by now, I imagine, has made a chrysalis and has become well, this has been several weeks, so it should be a flying moth by now. But it's a beautiful moth, too. John, what do we call these things? Anybody know?
Praying mantis.
Was that a print? Oh, I
Yes.
see it now.
Yeah, they disguise pretty well in different colors of foliage, and that's on bone set. And that guy is large, but probably 5 inches long or something.
Do they have eyes?
Do they have what?
Eyes?
Yeah, they're,
Yeah, their heads will turn, they'll follow you and look at you.
if you
Okay.
look there out
I'm
to
trying
the
to see, are they
extensions on the right,
sides? Yeah,
he's
I
looking
see.
right at us.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I see.
these pictures needed more adjustment to show on this with the light on it. Okay, this is swamp milkweed. It's Asclepias incarnata. And this dragonfly,
12 spotted dragonfly.
how many?
12, I think.
Okay,
12 spotted dragon.
3 on each wing.
okay, it's a nice one. It's pretty pale picture. Anybody know what flower this is?
It's beautiful.
Well, you see that, it's a flower fly on this thing. And it's probably quarter-inch long. They're called hover flies. And they do everything a bee does except make honey. Of course, and they don't sting, yeah. But they are native pollinators that were here, hundreds of species in the United States. And they pollinate things just like, you know, bees are brought in from Europe. I mean, the honeybees were brought in from Europe. Our bumblebees are natives, and there are native tiny bees. Some of them you can hardly see. And same with these flies. Some of them are that long, some of them might be half-inch long. But that flower,
Is that fog fruit
fog, I think,
or? Okay.
What is it?
fog fruit.
Fog fruit.
And it grows with its little roots in the edge of a pond or along a stream that doesn't flow too fast. And it'll grow in your yard if you've got some nice dark soil, water it a little bit now and then. So it's tiny, but it's beautiful when you find them. This butterfly it's either a comma.
Or a question mark.
That's right. So it's a question mark to me which one it is. They're very similar, and only the trained individuals, well-studied individuals can tell them easily apart. It's because of some little marking that's different on them. One thing looks like a question, it looked that way to some scientist who was naming them, you know. Okay, there's a tiny butterfly at the top. That's in the hair streak family. And anybody know what flower this is?
Ladies' tresses or something?
No, this is a big flower. This is a tall prairie flower.
I can cheat a little bit. You know, the very top, some of your file names have the plant name in them.
Oh, yeah, obedient plant with a hair streak. I didn't notice I had that. Well, they may all have. A lot of them do. But obedient plant is named that, or called that, because if you bend it, or if a bird lights on it, tries to peck around or something, and bends it over, it'll stay that way. It obeys you. So you can make them look really funny. You go sometimes and the rain's done it or something, and hard rain. But you could use it as a signal. I'm going this way to your friend that's out there in the tall grass with you. And bend one every few yards or something. This is a native orchid. We're still out at Pinnacle Wet Prairie. And it's a fringed orchid group. I forgot. Let's see, what do I say up there? Okay, a ragged. It's up in the corner, guys. A ragged fringed orchid. I got a lot of pictures of those this summer. I think last year maybe I didn't get any pictures of them, but the year before I did. It's just hard to find them in tall grass. If you don't just, I guess you can GPS them if you're really a smart character, but I don't know how to.
Some of those plants are biennials, and they only bloom every other
Well-
year. I don't know about this, but
It's possible in this case, but I think I just missed it. But it's great, and if you see them on my Flickr set, places like that, you can blow them up almost this big on whatever screen you've got. You can see them a lot clearer. Okay, 2 young robins, I think.
Cardinals.
Cardinals, they turned out to be. Yes, Cardinals, thank you. Anyway, that's about that's so up there.
And there it is.
Yeah, that nest is, I don't know if that's a last year's nest. I don't think it was this summer. So I think I know where I made it. And that was covered up by other things this year. See somebody out there?
Yep.
Okay, this is on Pinnacle Prairie. That's the fence you see at the left over there. That's Pinnacle Foods plant fence. And he or she, can't tell on Canada geese too easily, but is actually in a flow that comes down, one of the flow areas I was talking about, so that he was, or she was wet in the water and was not actually sunk in the snow. Okay, this grasshopper, you call these longhorn. You see the long going out to your right, the feelers, as I would call them, antennae. Is that the word, John? And that one is eating the seed pod, or eating a seed, a milkweed seed. You can see it in his pinchers there, its mouth. And that was on Pinnacle Prairie a couple of years ago or so. And I just love that picture. But that's the tall green prairie milkweed, Asclepias hortella. And it's one when I complained a while back about the mowing that was done out by the drive-in theater on 112. Well, there was a whole field of this particular milkweed. I mean, hundreds of plants, probably thousands in this few acres right next to and around on both sides of that theater. And they mowed them when it finally quit raining. They were beautiful out there. And I was saying, all the monarchs are going to have milkweed on this field. It was all down suddenly after a week with no rain. There's somebody lurking to mow things. Can't wait. Okay, passion flower. You're familiar with the purple one?
Yep.
The other one's called yellow. The purple one's on a leaf of the purple one, and it's much larger, just as you can see there, and I just squeeze these together. But the other one's a vine too, but you see above the yellow one, there's the foliage up there. See, it's a smaller indentation, where it's pretty big leaf compared to the flower. Both of these are host plants for Gulf fritillary butterflies and variegated fritillary butterflies and some other species. So they're important to grow, and they're the ones that have the purple one has these big things called maypops. Your grandpa or somebody in the family probably used to eat them. They taste okay. They just have a lot of seeds inside. And the other one has a tiny, tiny little seed that not worth trying to eat, because you know there's a seed in that berry and you can't even bite it. But if you plant them, they grow. And this frog is on what I talked about a while ago.
Goldenrod.
It's up at the top.
Yeah, I cheated though.
That's a pretty small tree frog, and I got very lucky that day to get that tree frog about this big and make him look that big. I probably made 50 pictures of him, and I never could decide which one I liked the best. Okay, we're back to the first. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Aubrey. for-
Any questions about all that?
I've got a question.
Yes.
So we've got a area over at Butterfield Trail Elementary School that Dana Smith, former EAC member, we got together and thought we'd try an experiment, and it didn't really work. But it's the stormwater retention area, so we turned it into a no-mow zone. And we got with the district maintenance and put up some signs and just had them quit mowing it. And we were hoping it would magically turn into some cool prairie, or something. But it's just real weedy. Now, there's a few flowers and things that bloom. But we didn't know what we were doing, so we've never really managed it. We just let it sit there. So we probably need to go in there and mow that sucker really short this winter?
in the winter.
And then, should we help it along by seeding it with something? What should we do to try
We'll get
to?
some more native plant seeds. Like I
Because
said,
right now, we've not done anything.
Yeah, plant those milkweed seeds.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could use some guidance on how to try to make something out of that so it looks more impressive than a bunch of weeds.
Well, if, you may have some weeds that are valuable natives too.
Well, probably, I don't
In the
know.
batch, but if they're not flowering, you can't tell easily.
Yeah,
So they
I
probably-
kind of watched it throughout the year and took a few pictures, and it just, nothing was ever impressive. There's a few things that flowered, but, I guess we'd like to, you know, maximize it to, you know, make it more impressive so people would pay attention and realize that it's there for a purpose and not just a big weedy patch, you know. But, so yeah, we might talk afterwards.
Okay,
Give me some tips.
anybody else? Question?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Aubrey. And we'll have your announcement at the end for next time. But I know Peter has an update on the invasive species policy.
I do.
And since he made it back from Buffalo, we're all pretty jealous. We were talking about you.
Yeah, I apologize for being late. We had our timing worked out. We were coming back from Gilbert, and we stayed 3 nights out at Gilbert over the weekend.
Wow,
In a little cabin, did 2 little short day trips, kid-friendly day trips on the river, and then went for a hike at Tyler Bend today. Nice overlooks of the river, and on the way back, there was an accident on Highway 65 south of Harrison, and we were stopped for at least a half hour just sitting there waiting. A couple of cattle trucks and some other, several vehicles involved, it looked like, that had the road shut down, so apologize for being back late. Whoops.
We're just mad about the Buffalo part.
Yeah.
We didn't get
Yeah.
to go.
Where's the keyboard? Does Aubrey have it?
Mhm.
Oh, no, you got it.
Oh, Aubrey, Peter was about to.
I turned it off and then I turned it back on. Starting Windows again.
Okay.
I was almost ready to show you the presentation. I'll return the computer off, but,
It's Monday.
yeah. I did have I always take my tree book with me when I go out hiking on the Buffalo, and I've spotted my first Ozark chinkapin that I've ever seen out in the woods. They're not overly common, and I didn't know until reading in my book today that it's actually the only tree species that is only native to the Ozark region, so it doesn't have territory anywhere outside the
Does it
Ozark
have any fruit on
region.
it? Have you,
What's that?
did it have any seed pods?
No, it was a little bitty. It was actually right next to an overlook looking out on the, like this built,
That's where they're usually found.
yeah.
They're almost always re-sprouts from old stumps and things.
It's kind of what it looked like. Yeah, it wasn't very big. Had several legs coming up from it.
A neighbor has a bunch of the non-rotting logs on top of the mountain that have been there for many years, because a member of the American chestnut family.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone's ever interested in trees, just a side note, I know the County Extension Service has a wonderful book. It's like a manual. It helps you identify all different types of trees. I studied it as a kid when I was working with them, and there's some really cool stuff you can find out on how to identify just based on bark, leaves, all kinds of things. I know most people know that, but those who don't, pretty interesting. It's good bedtime reading.
Okay, wanted to give you all a quick update on the invasive species work that we've been doing in the Sustainability Department in conjunction with a stakeholder group and our Urban Forestry Department and our Parks and Recreation Department. Gave this same presentation to City Council at agenda session last Tuesday, and wanted to bring you guys up to speed on where things are at with the invasive species work. So if you'll recall, back in May, the City Council passed a resolution requesting that staff look at the need for developing an invasive species ordinance or law targeting the regulation of invasive plants in Fayetteville. And so we took this resolution and created a stakeholder group, 13 stakeholders consisting of several different interested either citizens or practitioners our scientists here in the city of Fayetteville. Also got representation from a couple of our citizen advisory groups. We had a Urban Forestry Advisory Board representative on the stakeholder group. And Andrew was so kind as to represent the Environmental Action Committee on our stakeholder group. We did 4 meetings where we talked about various aspects of invasive plants. Looked at the need for invasive species from an economic perspective and from an ecological perspective. We also looked at what other communities have done related to invasive species. We really leaned heavily on the stakeholders to help us identify which plant species were the most harmful here in Fayetteville, and then also used them to help provide guidance on the policy recommendation that I'll share with you in a second, and help with our educational component that we're going to move forward with as well. So one of the things we did in the very beginning was really try to ground the group in terms of what is an invasive plant, and we looked to the USDA to help us define invasive plants. And essentially they're plants that meet two definitions, or 2 pieces of a definition. They have to be non-native to the ecosystem, so they're not from around here, if you will, and their introduction into the ecosystem has to be causing some economic, ecological, or harm to human health. Essentially, it's hazardous to the environment that it's been introduced into. So in trying to evaluate the actual need for invasive species, we first looked at some resources to try and determine the economic impact of invasive species, and you can see one source we found cited $35 billion a year in nationwide damages and removal costs associated with invasive plants. Found another program in Georgia where they're paying landowners between $150 on the, I believe it was $250 an acre they were paying landowners for the first treatment of invasive species, and then $150 an acre on a second treatment for removal of invasive species. This was under a program in Georgia from 2008, 2009, 2010 period, where they used some ERA money to fund invasive species removal. We looked at policies, primarily that various states have enacted targeting invasive plants. You can see Texas has 31 plants that are banned for sale, transport, and planting in the state of Texas. Arkansas only has 4 plants that are banned statewide under similar rules. Few communities, Chicago and some counties, that also have lists of banned plants. One of the things we found overarching to all of the policies that various cities, states, and counties had enacted is that education was key to the program being successful. It's one thing just to say a plant's illegal, but you've really got to go beyond that and educate the public on why it's harmful to the environment, and once it's established, what the proper way to remove that particular plant would be, and then what an appropriate plant to replace it with would be.